Hello, everyone. It is episode 4 of season 10 of the Otafest podcast. I'm your host, Nancy, the little one, and I'm here with Jay and Angelo.
We're even smaller.
Is that
We're
your
even
title
littler
now?
than Nancy.
Nancy the little one.
The little one.
I feel like you have to say it from your chest and with reverb. The little one.
No, but then I can just have you do it. It sounds so good when you do it.
Yes.
I think there's some sizeism here.
Just have a
like
Bluetooth
just because
speaker
she
in your
sounds
backpack.
small doesn't mean she's
And
not the
every time you
smallest.
enter a room, you press a button.
And it goes into Angelo mode.
Exactly. It just booms out, announcing your title.
And now it's in my title. Forever.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the end of it.
The little one.
Well then, I shall have to add that to all of my business cards also. Before we get started, we have a little bit of news and a little bit of announcement. Please come join us on our Discord server at discord.gg/Otafest, and let's watch Reboot Rewind together. Let's make sure you grab your tickets to see the final episodes 6 to 8 in advance on the big screen on October 19th at the Plaza Theater 2. Tickets to the reboot finale are at Otafest/reboot. It's otafe.st/reboot to get your tickets.
Hell yeah. Neither of you guys were in the server to watch episodes 1 and 2, were you?
I was not home.
I mean, I've seen episodes 1 and 2 so many times.
So I didn't realize Reboot Rewind is a documentary about making Reboot.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It is very interesting.
It's really cool.
I was really enjoying it.
I know we talked about Reboot a little bit last episode just because we were talking about the Reboot Rewind event. But, like, I think it's really interesting how much of a cult following and appreciation it really has gotten since the end of its run. Like, it could have fallen by the wayside as yet another sort of janky early 3D animation project.
Well, that's the thing. It's because it was one of the first 3D animation projects.
And honestly, one of the best.
So before Reboot, there was basically the guys who made Reboot did that 3D Dire Straits music video and some advertisements and things like that. Reboot was the first 3D TV show.
Yep. And then, of course, there's the whole how they had to curate the journey that Reboot took on a writing perspective due to things like censors on certain networks, things like that. So that's always really interesting to hear about.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give away a whole lot of it because I know y'all want to go and actually watch it yourselves.
I'm really excited. The 3rd episode is airing this Tuesday, the day before this episode of the podcast drops, and it looks like episodes 4 and 5 are going to be each Tuesday after that.
Excellent. I can't wait.
Can I do a little nostalgia trip quickly?
Of course.
Now that I really think about it, back in the day, it was either when it came to 3D animated cartoon series, which, by the way, preceded, like, I feel like even like feature films of a 3D animated variety. Like, Reboot was before Shrek.
Yes.
Yeah,
in terms
way
of
by
before
a long shot.
though
Jimmy
Shrek-
Neutron was before Shrek, wasn't it?
I think it was very close. I think they must have been very close. The only other show I remember at the time was Beast Wars.
Which we're not allowed to call it because it was Beasties in Canada.
Exactly. And that was made by Mainframe. That was made by the same people who did Reboot.
The same studio, and you can tell, even the orchestration sounds very similar.
Okay. Shrek was about 6 months earlier than Jimmy Neutron, for the record.
Wow. Darn.
When I really think about it as well, it's like, despite how big franchises like Shrek and like How to Train Your Dragon, and of course all like the 3D animated worlds of Pixar and everything like that, they only could run because Reboot walked.
Yes.
You know,
there were
like,
certain techniques for 3D modeling and 3D animation that Mainframe and Reboot pioneered.
Like eyelids.
It's entirely possible someone else would have made it, probably. But they made it, so they get the credit. Like, come on.
They really did pave the way.
And they don't have like the budget. They don't have the budget that like a Toy Story gets. You know
Oh,
what I
God,
mean?
no.
No.
So
And let's be honest, a lot of the things that that studio works on these days, the money is spent a lot on physics engines and particle
True.
physics and textures and hair and lighting, and less so on some of the basics that Reboot introduced.
well, a lot of
Yes.
like the animation side of things now too. Don't forget is motion cap, as opposed to the manual movement of like a rig.
Movement rigging, yeah.
Exactly.
You would be surprised on that. That more depends on the project than anything else.
Very true.
Because there is a lot of animation techniques in 3D. I didn't understand this at first. I always thought that 3D animation was okay, you rig them, you pose them, whatever, and then you can just swoop your camera around wherever you want it to look. Not really. Oftentimes for a scene, they decide their camera angle first, and they will literally break the bones of the model.
Of the models
Yes.
to get the shot they want.
Yes,
Like,
that
if
is
you
one
look
of
at
the
it
funny
from
things.
any other angle,
It doesn't
they
make
look
sense.
like monsters. They look like body horror.
Someone there was a recent like I think it was probably on Instagram or something like that. It was about The Sims 4, maybe. Anyway, it was talking about the woohoo function, which is
Ah,
know.
the woohoo
Oh,
function.
yeah.
the woohoo
Yes, I
function.
remember
Have you seen this
that.
video? Where it's like
Yes.
I
they're
haven't
talking
seen that
about
video, but I know what
what-
the woohoo function is.
Yeah. They're like, what are the models doing under the sheets when they do the woohoo? And
Yeah.
they basically did a little custom sandbox world, and then they shrank the bed down so that you could sort of see what the models were doing, like on top of a bed instead of in between the sheets. And it's horrifying. It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's a what do you call it? A contortionist's dream.
Is
what
it like
is.
that Get On meme?
I don't
Is it
know.
like that? No?
But it's more like they just break all the hips and the bones, and they're just like
They jumble them around
Yeah.
in a little sandstorm.
they're not human shaped when they are the woohoo.
Yes. And that is, by the way, kids, not how the woohoo actually works.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny. I've seen that a few times, and it never ceases to cause me to give like a really weird expression every single time.
Excellent.
Oh, and I think lastly for our news and announcements, Otafest tickets are now $60. They've gone up. So you better get your tickets at Otafest/tickets. That's OTAFE.st/tickets before they go up even further.
Discounts in this economy, we're trying.
We
So
gotta
use them.
You gotta get in cheap. You gotta get in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
We're already at floor 1. Come on.
This
It's
elevator
easy
only
stonks,
goes
okay?
up.
The elevator goes up.
Oh, boy.
It elevates.
Now, we are a Japanese culture festival. I think all of us are weebs. One thing about Japan that I really miss is the food. Every day I wake up and my belly grumbles, and I'm thinking, man, what I would give to have that sweet, creamy, savory, delicious umami Nihongo meshi right now.
Is it called
Indeed.
umami because that's what you say when you have it?
Umami. Yes.
Oh my.
Exactly. So, one thing caught Dio and I. It caught Dio and I's eye when we were walking through Amart a few weeks ago. We
You
were
shared
going
one
there
eye.
for tonkatsu sauce. And right
Oh,
beside the
yummy.
tonkatsu sauce, there was a bottle bearing the visage of none other than the Hokage himself, Naruto.
Oh.
And we looked upon it, and on its label it read Okonomiyaki sauce.
That would do it.
Yes. We looked at that and we knew what we had to do. We were on a mission from that point on we'd already bought some Napa cabbage at that point and a few other things. So we grabbed a couple other things and headed home to make okonomiyaki. This was a few weeks ago. And for a first run, it was okay.
Which kind?
Yes. Did you make Hiroshima style or did you make Tokyo style?
I think we made Tokyo style. I think Hiroshima style is a little bit different. I will explain the process in a bit and you can tell me.
It's the ingredients, by the way.
After the first step, after the first try, there were a few different things I wanted to change about it. And so this week I made more okonomiyaki and it was fantastic. The first thing, so we had already bought Napa cabbage for something else. I can't remember what it was. But we were like, well, it's cabbage. We could use it for okonomiyaki, surely. And absolutely you can. You can make good okonomiyaki with Napa cabbage. Regular ass green cabbage does work better though. It's a lot it doesn't
A
have
lot less fleshy.
as high of a water content, or maybe it's just that it's got more structure to it, you know? Mm-hmm. And because of that, the okonomiyaki itself holds together better and it's not as doughy.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that was the biggest difference. One thing that we wish we could have found, we forgot, was to find some aonori instead of regular nori. But that's okay. It was good nonetheless. So we made the okonomiyaki batter the night before. Yes. Apparently making the batter the day ahead of time makes it much better.
Indeed.
And I believe that because compared to when I first mixed it, the day after it was like a lot gloopier, a lot stickier. And that doesn't sound good.
But that's what you
want. But for the
want.
texture of the okonomiyaki, it was correct.
Yes, that's what you want. You want it to be silky. You want it to be like... You want it to be smooth.
The fridge dehydrates the batter a little bit, but it also lets the batter settle into itself a little more.
Exactly.
That's
it was
nice.
nice.
The flour gets time to properly hydrate.
Yeah.
One other thing, because we were just doing it at home, we didn't buy tempura bits. But Dio had some Panko brand tempura batter in the pantry.
Oh, good.
So we just mixed that up and threw it into some hot oil and let it crisp up and chopped that up. And oh.
That's how I make
So we got the
tonkatsu,
batter.
actually.
We threw some eggs. We put in the tempura bits. We mixed all that up. And then one other change that we did, instead of using pork belly specifically, we used bacon because we already had it.
Makes sense.
I mean, they're the same part of the animal.
Yes.
The only
It's
difference
just
is
the
that bacon
process
is
of
like
Cured differently.
smoked and cured, right?
Yes.
It was delicious nonetheless. Big recommend.
Yummy.
Then we threw on the okonomiyaki sauce. We threw on the kyupu mayo. We put on the bonito flakes, and
So,
oh my god, it was delicious.
Yum, yum.
Hiroshima style, I believe, has noodles.
Doesn't Hiroshima style have some noodles in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also like, because of it, it constitutes as a taller okonomiyaki. Like
It
it's
makes
got
a very
more
tall
volume.
pancake.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is another thing that I found out. Making it thinner, making it a little bit flatter, helped to cook the cabbage and make it a lot less doughy, which was also really nice. I got a nice crispy edge to it. Oh, ooh.
And if I remember right, when I went and had okonomiyaki at Okonomimura, what our chef did was he cooked all of the ingredients before adding the batter to it. Like he did, like, there was like a whole thing where he like pressed down on a lot of the cabbage to really get it to sizzle and get it to cook all the way through. And then he starts layering it into this whole big thing. But the batter was applied to the griddle directly, and then he put all the ingredients on top of it. So it wasn't mixed in.
That's right. That's the big difference for Hiroshima okonomiyaki versus like Tokyo okonomiyaki. Tokyo okonomiyaki is like more mixed together
It's all
to
mixed
begin
together.
with.
You cook it all at once.
Versus Hiroshima is more layered.
I really liked it, by the way. Ooh.
Oh, I imagine
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
It's a good time.
It's so good. And quite frankly, I know that it's not going to be authentic to what you can get in Japan. But for
I
what
mean,
I
you
can
can't
do
get
at
it
home,
here.
it was amazing.
Great.
I
It's-
loved it.
That's great.
Yeah.
And what I realized, it freezes up really well.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
really,
yeah.
really good.
I see.
So after we cooked the okonomiyaki, the leftover ones that I just put into a Ziploc in the fridge, and then today for lunch, right before the podcast, I took them out, let them thaw a bit, heated them up in the pan, and within 10 minutes, with very minimal mess, I had, once again, a fantastic lunch that reminded me of being overseas.
That's
It was a
lovely.
good time.
Lovely and
It was
nostalgic.
a very good time.
Speaking of Japanese food, but I have some disappointing speculation, shall we say.
Okay.
I don't know if we talked about this. It feels familiar, but I'm not certain. But over earlier in the year, so it might have been like on last season's podcast episode, it might have been mentioned that 7-Eleven, which is a Japanese company at this point in time, they were thinking of upgrading their international operations to
be more
include
like
some
Japan,
of their
right?
yes, to be to offer more of their Japanese, food, such as possibly like their croquettes and maybe their sandos and things like that. Well, I was looking forward to that idea. However, there was speculation. Well, speculation isn't the right word. A Canadian company has put in a bid to overtake the Canadian operations
Oh.
of 7-Eleven.
Heck.
Therefore, if it ever goes through, and this is, I believe, their second or third attempt at it, they're very serious. It's basically saying goodbye to that dream.
Oh, no.
I would be very sad.
That is depressing, but you know what? It was never going to happen to begin with. The discussion around 7-Eleven in the United States becoming more like 7-Eleven in Japan was more featured on the
It was more
business
focused
style
around like
rather
the
than the
logistics,
product line.
right?
Yeah, the logistics.
No, they were talking about product lines as well. But I mean, it makes sense.
Their biggest thing was they wanted to do the multiple times a day delivery. They wanted
Yeah.
the fresh food. They wanted to change people's idea about what 7-Eleven was so that it became a destination as opposed to, I'll go in there for lottery tickets or cigarettes.
Yes.
Well, that is true because part of the article that I read, and I thought it was quite interesting as well, 7-Eleven and the other convenience store company competition in Japan make a great deal of their money from the sale of their food.
Yeah, of the prepared food.
Yeah, so much so that like some of the premium locations in Japan, such as like in, like heavily densely populated areas of Tokyo and things like that, make up to 60 grand a day from food.
Yeah,
Correct.
100%.
Whereas I feel like not a single 7-Eleven in Canada makes probably even 10K from food.
I would
Yeah,
be
I mean-
surprised if there's any 7-Eleven in Canada that does 60 grand a day, period.
I mean, they sell gas. That's part of the model here.
Oh, I guess. Like,
Right?
I'm thinking like you need to go inside the convenience store to buy something. Like
Yes.
that's what I'm thinking about. Okay, so if we remove petrol as part of the sales daily or even weekly, I don't get the impression that that's how much they would be pulling in at all
No,
on a
not at all.
consistent basis.
So it's a completely different approach. But, like I said, whether it's the operations side or the actual customer facing offerings, my dreams are but a sad, sad nightmare.
Aw. But I have
Because we'll
some
never get it.
good news though, Jay. So there is a kombini I don't want to call them a company, but like a konbini small chain in BC that is starting to expand, and they are providing the Japanese konbini experience,
Expand faster, damn it!
including the thank you chime when you pay, and like the
Oh.
door chime when you walk in the door, and like the
Oh.
products, the feeling, like the setup, everything. They're offering that experience. And currently
it.
they have 5 locations in BC, and I believe it's on their docket to expand. I just don't know what direction they'll expand in first.
All I'm
right?
saying is 5 syllables will make me happy. Ta, ma, go, san, do.
Yes. So, like, all of the usual sandos are there, the onigiri offerings, the hot food offerings. It's the full-blown experience. I want them to come to Alberta, and I don't know if they will, because obviously if you're a BC based chain at the moment and you're thinking of expanding in Canada, the first place you would look is probably Ontario.
Yeah, and then
And
maybe
then you'd start
southward to like
filling in.
Seattle as well, because just West Coast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
I need to send them a very politely worded request to please consider Alberta, because, man, we are starved for Japanese experiences out here in comparison.
My take, and this isn't going to help the weebs in the audience or in the podcast crew, as we transition to electric cars as the primary road vehicles, gas stations that are set up like Buc-ee's in the States are going to be the biggest winners.
Yes,
So the
I
places
agree.
where you pull in, you charge your car, you're there for like 20 to 30 minutes minimum anyway.
You need something to do for 20 to 30
You need
minutes.
something to do. And so maybe in maybe a decade, we will start seeing places, we will see recharging stations that are like Buc-ee's up here. Or maybe we'll get something that's like Buc-ee's but different.
So for
Maybe we'll
for those
get
Canadians
Buc-ee's,
who don't know what
but
Buc-ee's
7-Eleven,
are,
Japan.
would you like to tell us more about what Buc-ee's does in the States?
So Buc-ee's is absolutely beloved in the States. It is a gas station. It's like a road stop gas station. You know when you're driving for like 4 hours in one direction and in the middle of heckin' nowhere, you pull off to get gas and it's like its own city of just servicing. It's a service station is what it is. Buc-ee's is that, but it's damn near a Walmart attached to a gas station. And they've just got a ton of their little Buc-ee's branded dude merchandise everywhere. They've got car stuff. You can get like CB radios and things there.
What?
It's crazy.
What? I mean,
Buc-ee's
I feel like
intense.
is it like a Princess Auto that's also a gas station?
It's honestly closer to Walmart than Princess Auto,
interesting.
Wow, interesting.
So I think
but they are intense.
So I think for that to be really successful here, we'd also want to see things that are a little bit more maybe convenience-based and also maybe entertainment-based. Like maybe you could sit down for
And watch an
20,
anime
30 minutes
episode.
and get like a proper nice meal with whomever you're traveling with.
Well, that's the thing. If you think of Gasoline Alley in Red Deer, that is the type of area where electric cars are going to change the economy.
You know, I know you're thinking about like the consumer electric vehicle, but the likeliest and most foremost transformation when it comes to electric on the road is long haul trucking.
We
So I
will
think it's
see about that.
actually, I just think that the model would first cater to industry and then consumer.
Maybe. You never
The
know.
problem there is scale. No matter what you do, there's a lot more people driving cars than there are transport trucks. Already, transport trucks, when they're fueling up, they're spending half an hour to fill their tanks anyway, just with diesel.
Yeah.
But the difference for service stations like Gasoline Alley and Red Deer, you are going to have a lot more people stopping there for longer periods of time.
Yeah.
So places like the Donut Mill are going to go crazy. That little gift shop across the parking lot from the Donut Mill there is going to do well. There's a lot of restaurants there. Like Gasoline Alley is kind of crazy in a way. That is like one of the largest service centers I have seen in Canada. And that isn't because it's attached to Red Deer, of course. But it's still pretty crazy. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. That's what I first thought of when you started mentioning Buc-ee's, and I was like, I would really like to see that turn into an area that services people even more than what it already does.
Yeah. And yeah, when you have people stopping, not just 5 minutes for gas, but literally 20, 30 minutes, because that's how long it takes, it's going to change a lot. It is going to change a lot. Wow.
That'd be pretty
But
great.
the thing about trucking specifically, the change to electric transport trucks is going to take a lot longer than we think. The problem is for intercity use, it makes a little bit of sense. For long haul use, the wasted space of the battery is currently an issue. There's actually a lot of podcasts out there about how the Tesla Semi was a big scam that was never going to work. And then there's also Nikola, that other electric semi company that was literally a giant scam.
Oh, good. Good.
Electric semis are probably not coming anytime soon, unfortunately.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think that's probably an industry that needs a lot of carbon removal.
Yeah,
Would
it's
be
more
nice.
likely you're right, Angelo, because I know that the intercity delivery options are more likely the first modes that are going to see a lot of innovation in that sector, because I've seen Canada Post has hybrid trucks now. They actually make them stand
nice.
out. They have different branding. I think there's green on the trucks.
Neat.
That actually, and then, you know, you might take a double take and be like, why is that Canada Post truck green?
Oh,
And I'm like, well,
that's
I'll
why.
give you a clue. It's because they're finally tired of being red.
It's because they're moldy.
Yeah, and I know Amazon and the U.S. Post have contracts to develop and switch over to electric vehicle use in inner city areas.
Oh,
So,
that would be nice.
yeah.
That'd be
Anyways.
very nice.
You know, when we're not a gardening podcast, we're a electric vehicle podcast. So
I thought we're a gaming podcast.
I thought we were an anime podcast.
Hey, Garuga Mesh.
Nailed it.
Jay, I thought it was my turn with the brain cell.
Yeah.
This is what happens when we have shared brain cells between the podcast hosts, huh?
For real. God damn. The mirror neurons are catching up on the exact same thought.
Well, it's certainly something that happens when you hang out with us for long enough. We start stealing and borrowing other people's brain cells. It's great.
But seeing as we've talked about anime recently, let's talk about gaming. Nancy, what have you been playing?
We started playing Final Fantasy 16, so I guess Square released it on Steam not that long ago. And because it is a fully fleshed game that doesn't require a subscription, that comes with 2 DLCs already, we bought
That's
it for
insane.
full price.
How can you possibly make money without microtransactions and
Apparently, this is how. Anyway, this is something we wanted to support. Like, this is good intellectual property support. Like, if you're gonna give me a fully finished game and it comes with DLC, and I just gotta pay like full price for one game and never again, yeah, I'll do it. So we paid, we got the game. It is one of the most polished RPGs I have ever played, and I will be honest, my bar was a little lower for Final Fantasy because
oof.
when people hype things, and we've talked about this before, when people hype things, I generally tend not to take it seriously. I lower my bar when people hype things. It's just what we do. Because I think we, the 3 of us, have been bitten enough by lots of hype where we're like, okay, this is getting a lot of hype. I'm going to take all of it with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
This
I know
game
that feeling.
has surpassed so many of my expectations. A lot of it
That's
is
wonderful.
really, really solidly animated. Like, a lot of the animations are really lovely. The voice acting is so good. So good. And the UI polish very lovely. They've finally started to break away a little bit from some of the more formulaic things that they did in 15 and in the Final Fantasy VII remake. Like, they've broken away from some of that a little bit. I love it. Very polished. The actual gameplay mechanics, also very fun. Just it's very fun. It's not a turn-based
Imagine
game, so if you
fun.
wanted something turn-based, I'm sorry. It's more Devil May Cry action RPG, but
Oh, interesting.
it's so good. Like, the dodging mechanics kind of remind me of Bayonetta. It's very flashy, but without being, Bayonetta style over the top, obviously. But it's very good. And the story, the writing has actually really pleasantly surprised me.
That's wonderful.
I have nothing but good things to say about it at the point in time that I am in the game right now.
All right.
So
That's wonderful.
We'll see where the story goes as the month progresses, and we'll see, there's always going to be little things you can always nitpick about. So I will name the one thing that is very spoiler-free that I can nitpick, and that is the Chocobo running animation. When you finally get a Chocobo and you're able to sprint, I feel like the camera angle from the back, which is normally where it's going to be, makes it kind of look like it's not running fast enough for the animation that the Chocobo has. Like, the Chocobos have gigantic claws. Surely they're moving faster than the current speed we're running at.
You look at the where the feet are versus the ground and see if the feet are like sliding against the ground.
That's
See
kind
if
of what
looks
it feels
they're
like to me.
skating almost.
That's kind of what it feels like to me. And
That is one of
it's-
my biggest pet peeves
It's a
in games.
super minor nitpick, though, when you put it in light of everything else I've said that's been really good about the game. So
The problem with a walk animation not fitting, though, is that you are walking so often that if it looks bad, that is the primary way that you're interacting with it.
True.
sometimes, I mean, you're not
I understand
wrong.
that it's probably just for the chocobo.
It's just the Chocobo.
Just putting in perspective, when some games, if you go up the whole, this is 80 hours of gameplay, when 20 hours of it is travel from place to place.
Yep.
You want the travel mechanics, even the animation, to be fluid so that you're having a good time.
Exactly.
I will say the thing that impressed me, like, of the top 3 things that really impressed me about this game, one of them is how it chooses to lore dump on you. And, like, we've all played games where lore dump is so incredibly unappealing. There were a lot of
God,
times
yeah.
I complained about it in Final Fantasy 15 because a lot of the lore dumping happens in like these random letters and snippets that you pick up, and you're expected to read them so that you know what's happening in the world. And it
Oh, yeah.
happens to be the primary way that it builds up the
That's
world.
like the Bloodborne classic, the From Software classic way of communicating story.
And that's not how this game does it. So this game has a very lovely, comprehensive timeline for you to look at the current timeline of everything that's happened, and you see a snapshot of that time in the game and in the story of how all of the characters that were present, how their motivations were at the time, and how they interacted with your motivations at the time.
Oh, interesting. So it's like it's a timeline character map
Yeah.
that you can just go back and check.
And you can see what your relationships were like between different people and you, and what they were like at that point in time in the game.
That sounds interesting.
That is such a cool mechanic. I think that could extend to so many story-based games of any kind.
I agree.
It's like how a lot of fan groups, right? How
Yeah.
they make like these relationship charts
Yes.
for different interactions between characters in like an anime or TV series or something.
Yes.
That sounds so cool that they just put that right in the game for you.
It's in the game. You can go check it whenever you want. There's a really lovely timeline at the bottom that like kind of lays out the different years that have happened on their calendar year, and you can sort of pick like areas on the timeline that you want to inspect.
Very
That's
cool.
well done.
Very, very, very well done. I really appreciate that. The other thing they do that is very successful as a lore dump is that they've actually relegated an entire character to be the historian. There's actually a world historian character, and you go visit them, and they will tell you what happened politically at some point in time to put things the way that they are now, so that you, the character that you're playing, have the knowledge you need to make, informed decisions.
All I can say to that is that Deckard Cain existed 20 years ago.
Except it wasn't just someone who just like lore dumped in the form of a really long monologue. Like, this is someone that you actually go speak to, and they tell you with a strategy map what happened on the continents, in which kingdoms, and why and when, and what the relationships were like. And like, it's in the context of the story. You need to make decisions about what you're going to do. And therefore, you ask a political historian.
Ask me anything. You go to his TED Talk. I see.
So I personally really appreciate this approach at lore dumping, because it's been done so badly in so many games that we all love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's fair.
So I highly, highly recommend it at this point in time. If for some reason it falls flat on the landing, it's going to be really disappointing. But I don't think it will. Like, I really do enjoy the journey it's taken us on so far, and the writing hasn't proven itself to be like flimsy. Chunks are missing. All parts of the lore have been taken out and turned into other things that you should have played beforehand, because you're not a real fan unless you've played the prequel and watched the prequel anime. Like, it's so well integrated. I really like it.
That's interesting. That's good then. Sasuga Square Enix.
Yes. Well, I'm glad they're finally evolving a little bit. I feel like this game is different enough from previous Final Fantasies that it's actually showing a lot of development growth in refining a game.
It actually feels like what a modern Final Fantasy should feel like.
It feels like a whole new game.
Nice.
And I like that a lot.
Very nice.
There's some funny... I guess they're rumors, or maybe they're not rumors, but there's some funny like backstory going around about how originally this game didn't have Moogles in it, but the fans had an uprising, and they were like, "No, it's a Final Fantasy; it has to have Moogles." And then they eventually did.
You need Moogles.
Add a
you
Moogle.
need Tonberries.
I have yet to see a Tonberry.
You need Cactuar too.
I have seen a lot of the classic creatures that I recognize from even back in like the Final Fantasy VIII days. And they look really cool and upgraded and very intricate. But I have yet to see a Tonberry. And I suspect, because of the nature of the Tonberry, it'll be in a hidden dungeon somewhere, and it will be hell to play.
It has to be there.
Has to be.
It's got to be there somewhere.
Always. So
always.
I look forward to finding whatever hidden hellscape they have for a hidden dungeon in this game, because they always do. All Final Fantasies have hidden dungeons that are extras on the side, and you go only if you want to.
Yeah. I have been playing one old game that is a remake of an old game because the spoopy season is upon us.
Oh?
The spoopy season is upon us, and I wanted to play myself a proper horror game. Not any of these Resident Evils, no. Not these Silent Hills. Not something psychological like Soma or cosmic horror like Dredge.
Oh God, what is it?
I needed something that really tears at your soul.
What is it?
Ghosts and Goblins.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Ski Free.
No, Ski Free is
Ski
great.
Free is the first horror game I ever played. When you're skiing down that hill and you're like, oh, I'm doing
Don't you know you
tricks
can
off
just
jumps.
press F to go faster and then he can't capture you?
But it's still a horror game regardless.
Apparently,
Just
if you
because you
make
can
it
cheat
far
your
enough
way
in
out of
Ski
it.
Free, just the edges of the screen are lined with Yetis.
What?
I've never gotten that far, but apparently that's a
Like
thing.
I said, the first horror game that most of us ever played was Ski Free.
But yeah, I've been playing Ghosts and Goblins, which was first released in 1985.
Wow.
And I'm playing Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection, which is a nice little version that's on Steam with really nice art, actually. I really dig the art. And Jesus Christ, it is hard as hell. It is so difficult. It is the original. It is the original Rage game. You know what I mean? it was designed to steal your quarters in arcades, and they haven't made it easier since.
Oh my.
There was one section in like the second level that I was stuck on last night for an hour and a half.
Aww.
And I'm not even on the hardest difficulty.
It's
That
because
just sounds
we're
like you have a lot of resilience to put up
we're
with
weak
that.
gamers. We're
I'm
no
such a
longer
bad
the-
gamer. I'm so weak.
Yeah, we're no longer the pros we once were.
No,
Reaching
I'm so
such
bad.
apex highs as silver ranking. Now I'm
But that's
lucky
what
to
I've been
get
doing.
bronze 2.
That is my Halloween spoopy game.
I never played that, but I've seen a lot of playthroughs. I've seen speedruns, especially of Ghosts and Goblins.
That's the
They're
thing.
nuts.
Like, I've seen other people play, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look that hard. No, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's so bullshit. It is a bullshit, stupid rage game.
Great. Just what I don't need in my life. And considering it's
also
a
been
horror
playing-
spoopy game, that's
Yeah.
even worse.
It's
'cause
not
I
exactly a horror. It's just
It's,
spooky themed.
I can't.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not
You're Sir
scary.
Arthur, and you're fighting your way through ghosts and goblins and zombies and
can't.
demons and
To
stuff.
call it a horror game would be because you have a fear of monsters.
The
as
horror
opposed
isn't
to-
the toothy plants spitting eyeballs at you. The horror is when one of those eyes just grazes your foot and your armor explodes off, and now you're running around in your little heart boxer briefs and you're throwing your lance at things, but there's too many of them, and then you make the wrong move, and then suddenly you're falling into a pit, and now you've died, and you have to do the whole area over again, and oh my god.
Or let me reframe it. The real horror is the creak of your thumb joints
No.
as you navigate the game.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I have actual thumb injuries from aggressively playing console games as a kid now. Like, I think I actually exacerbated it yesterday by trying to twist my thermos open.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I know that feeling, but oh no.
Yeah. So if I can't spacebar with this thumb, I guess it's the other thumb for spacebarring for a while.
I have also been playing I can't call it a remake. It's a fan game of a classic game. Because I really like sort of the fan game and ROM hacks and things like that.
I
I've been
understand what
playing-
this is now. I was
Yes.
I didn't understand what Jay wrote in our document, so I was going to be like, Jay, so I heard you've been playing Alt Dole. What is that?
Actually, it's Alt Doi.
Doi. Ah, okay, Doi.
Oh my god.
So that's A Link to the Past, and then this fan game is called Dungeons of Infinity. What it is, it's someone took all of the actual original sprites and game tiles from the original game and repackaged it, made their own tile sets of maps, and added some new functionality, some new items and games, and they made a roguelike out of it.
Oh dear.
Where it's 13 levels
Oh dear.
of randomized dungeon.
Dear goodness.
It's very fun.
And
it's a good
very
challenge.
frustrating, I bet.
I would say the difficulty level is like good, but it's not overly challenging. Like
I was
you'll,
watching some
you'll find a good
friends
time
play
in
it.
Yeah,
I was watching some friends play it, and they seemed like they were having a great time.
the boss.
It doesn't
final
seem
boss
like
is
it's
BS,
as
though.
difficult as something like Binding of Isaac.
Oh god. That game gave me nightmares.
Yeah, it's not as crazy as that, but there's definitely a lot of fun, like gameplay to be had, and you're sort of enjoying it and its original art style. There's a lot going on for it.
It seems very cool, very replayable.
Yeah, and when
feel
I'm not
like-
doing that, I am giving myself a small, cheap version of a dopamine hit in TCG Card Shop Simulator, where you're operating a tabletop card store, and you get to open the packs of. You can get higher node supply, is what I'm saying. You can open
my
up your own
God.
cards and get rares and sell those things and have stinky nerds enter your store.
So you're a
How
sentry
stinky.
box.
It's a good time. Yeah.
Does it feature a cameo of that one really fat guy in the Magic the Gathering tournaments who would just go and sit and pray beside people's
Oh, no.
plumber's cracks?
Oh no. That guy's not
but
welcome.
it's still in beta, okay?
Okay, we don't have
So-
that guy yet.
Okay.
Yeah, not yet.
Maybe that'll be a DLC.
Maybe
But
Oof.
it's
the bannable customer DLC.
Yeah,
I haven't
bannable
been
customers.
playing a lot of games recently, so it's just been nice, simple things that are, just a little to get me back into the swing of things.
Very, very fair. I think we've all got some video games to play now.
Yeah.
So let's get to that, and we will see you
Next
week, dear
time.
listener.
Dragon Ball Z.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.